viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays here on the Pagan Perspective. This week we have questions from two different people that are related to the same topic, and that topic is spirit communication. The first question is simply, does spirit communication play a role in your practice? And the second one is more specifically asking about communicating with spirits in general, but also more specifically, the specific part is asking about sensing or like feeling spiritual energy through specific body parts. And the example they gave was that their friend feels through their spine, they feel through their leg, etc. So the first question, does spirit communication play a role in my path or my practice? Actually, those are two separate questions for me, in my path or in my practice, because for my overall spiritual path, as far as like my beliefs, I guess you could say, or like things that I have a belief in, I suppose you could say, spirit communication is part of my path. It is something that plays a role in the type of path that I follow. There is definitely some influence from spiritualism, mediumship. Definitely when I was first starting out, my mom was actually taking a spirit communication class and had a lot of friends who were part of the co-op that I've mentioned previously in a few videos that we've been talking about this year, some different topics where that's come up. Some friends that we had through that were practicing mediums and would give spirit communication classes and things like that. My mom took them, I never did. But so that's definitely part of my path, as in like part of my worldview, something that I believe in, I suppose you could say, maybe quote unquote. But does it play a role in my practice is actually sort of a different question for me, because that to me gets at what do I actually actively do and work with. And I do not actively practice spirit communication. So as I just said, I didn't take the classes that my mom did, anything like that. Now, does that mean I've never received a message from spirit? No, that does not mean that. I have. I do not actively pursue it. It's not something I actively practice. So I would make those sorts of distinctions. So does it play a role in my path? Yes, it's something that is within the kind of realm of what I do and the type of things that I believe in, but it is not something that I currently actively practice. The second question is about general communication with spirits. I don't feel that I can give you any advice on that because, as I just mentioned, I don't actively practice it. It's not something that I actively pursue as an ability. The times that I have received messages, I receive messages from the universe, I would say, at any given time. It's not necessarily something that I like sit down and try to do. And it happens in different ways for different people. And I've talked about that before on my personal channel a little bit, if not here. But I don't think I could give any advice about like how to communicate with spirit. And it also, I think it depends. Maybe I should have mentioned this first, but what are we talking about when we say spirit communication? So I forgot, I was actually going to look up like the definition in one of the books I have, the Spirit book by Raymond Buckland. It's kind of an encyclopedia of spiritualism. But typically when someone says spirit communication, I think of it as we're talking about communicating with the spirits of deceased people or non-human animals, things like that. So beings that were once living in this plane of existence, who are now deceased and now live in the spirit realm. I suppose we could also be talking about the general spirits of other things like tree spirits, nature spirits, and things like that. But typically when I talk about things like that, I don't refer to it as spirit communication. And most of the time when I hear people talk about spirit communication as such, like using those words, they're not talking about communicating with nature spirits and things like that. They're talking about like ghosts type of thing, like mediumship, speaking with the deceased types of things. So I probably should have said this first, that's what I'm referring to. I do not actively practice that. And as far as like just communication with other types of things, like I said, I received messages from the universe and like in various ways, and that's just something that's how I interpret it. It's not something I'd be able to like give general advice on. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for, or just wanting us to talk about communication with spirits in general. So I guess I'm doing that. But yeah. But the other specific question that the second person this week asked was talking about feeling the spirit energy through different body parts. And that's really interesting to me because I've never heard anyone say like that they sense spirit energy in particular through a specific body part. And again, I'm thinking about, I have to hold the camera here, I don't have a tripod today. I'm thinking about specifically like ghosts type spirits when I think about that. So I'm thinking about like doing a paranormal investigation, and when you sense spirit energy in the room, how do you sense that? I sense it through my whole body. It's like an intrinsic feeling. So I've never heard anyone describe that as like they feel it specifically through a body part. When I'm working with energy, sensing energy, directing energy, stuff like that, I use my hands a lot. I do suppose like you can run energy and like absorb energy. Like when you're grounding, a lot of that is through your legs, and then I mean it's ultimately through your whole body, but focusing on like where your feet touch the ground or where your legs touch the ground if you're sitting, things like that. So I could see that being an explanation of like sensing or directing energy through your legs. That would be an example of that for me, is like when you're grounding or overall trying to sense the energy of the room. Maybe you would concentrate on, you know, whatever part of your body is in direct contact with something in the room, but also, yeah, just like through my overall energy field, I guess is how I do it. And then if I'm specifically trying to like more closely sense something, I use my hands, or like some people might touch something to their forehead or touch something to your heart. And either one of those things has worked for me. It depends on what the thing is. If it's an object, like if you're trying to sense energy from an object, or if you're working with crystals, or like any other type of thing that you can hold. Even tarot cards or oracle cards, a lot of the time I'll hold to my head or something like that. But yeah, that's really interesting. I've never really thought about that, or like had anyone say like, I feel spirit energy through a specific limb of my body, or like a specific body part. So that's new to me. That's cool. Yeah, that's all I can pretty much say about it. So relatively very short video from me this week, which I thought would be nice and refreshing for you, because I know you don't always have time to watch the really, really long ones. And yeah, that's just sort of a quick one from me. Spirit communication is definitely something in the wheelhouse of what I, again, believe in, quote unquote, if that's something that you can say. But it's not something that I personally actively practice, or that I necessarily feel gifted in any way. If I receive a message, I receive a message, you know, just as needed. But it's not something I actively work on, like mediumship or anything like that. It's not something that I particularly study myself. So yeah, thank you for asking. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Share below anything you would like to share. Let people know. Does spirit communication play a really large role in your path and or practice? Is it something that you're studying? Is it something that you feel maybe sort of naturally gifted at, or something that you're working to develop? And yeah, whatever you'd like to share. Thanks so much. And don't forget, you can also make your own video on your own personal channel using any of these topics. So if you've been looking for a topic, something to talk about, it is September, so we're coming up on Samhain season in the Northern Hemisphere. Of course, we have the equinox first, but then almost Samhain time, so people might be talking more about spirit communication and things like that, so it might be a good thing for you to use as a topic on your own channel pretty soon, so feel free to do that. Sorry for the shaking. I was holding my phone with just one hand. And I will see you next week. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to be awesome. Blessed be. and goodbye.